All right, guys, so I wanted to go over something huge today, and I wanted to cover the difference between the 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi signal strengths, or you could also call them Wi-Fi names, or you could also call them Wi-Fi bands, bandwidths, whatever you're going to want to call it. So basically, on your Wi-Fi router, you're going to notice that there's probably a 5 gigahertz or 2.4 gigahertz network, and basically the point of this video is to go over exactly what you're going to want to put on each and what the biggest differences are, because the average eye, it's just numbers, and people might not understand, or they might actually have it opposite. So to begin with, guys, we're going to be looking at the 2.4 gigahertz network. So just to jump right in, the 2.4 gigahertz network is actually going to be meant for your small devices, and it actually is going to have more range. Now, what this means is that small devices are going to be things like an iPhone. An iPad is kind of like a hybrid, but it's also going to be like a Ring doorbell or an Apple Watch. I believe your Apple Watch automatically connects to the 2.4 or whatever your iPhone is on, but I would recommend using the 2.4 as the range is going to be longer. So if you're using to take advantage of a smart watch or something that's going to be carried around the house, 2.4 is going to be your best bet. The 2.4, like I said, is for smaller devices, so iPhones, iPads are hybrid. Androids are going to be under the phone category as well. Kindle's going to be under the kind of phone category as well. You want to think about this as far as 2.4 is really meant for your lower end content devices, and I understand that on an iPhone you can do YouTube and you can do things that are heavy content uses, but at the end of the day, the 2.4 is really meant to stay away from things like an Xbox, a PS4, a gaming PC. A desktop in general will really struggle on a 2.4 unless all you're really doing is like Word documents and browsing the web and things like that and research. At the end of the day, I would recommend putting a desktop onto the 5 gigahertz and then jumping into next to the 5 gigahertz, guys. The 5 gigahertz is going to be meant for your big devices. So a PS4, an Xbox, a gaming PC, anything that's really just a heavy content using device is going to be on the 5 gigahertz, but it also does not have as much range. It is a stronger network, but it does not have as much range. So some things to troubleshoot if you're watching this video, guys, and maybe you're struggling with how to actually connect stuff to your network is, if your Wi-Fi is very slow, 3 things to troubleshoot for your Wi-Fi. The first thing is to restart your modem. This is going to be something that is going to kind of recalibrate it and get it back on track. And you are probably going to notice some increase in performance. However, number 1 does not always work, because if number 2 is broken or there's an issue, then number 1 is just not gonna do anything really. And number 2 is your Wi-Fi package is not strong enough. So the best way to look at this is that some Wi-Fi packages are like 200 megabytes per second with an upload speed of 10, or like 400 megabytes per second and an upload speed of 20, and then 600 and then 40. And then there also is gigabits with then the upload is 40. And then sometimes, most of the time when you Ethernet, you're actually going to get a stronger upload and download, and it's going to be a little bit more stable of a connection. But at the end of the day, what happens is that if your Wi-Fi is not strong enough, you're going to just suffer no matter what. It's basically like not really feeding yourself well. That's the analogy I would say, is you're always going to be tired. So your Wi-Fi needs to have enough strength and enough room to actually allow all your devices to perform properly. If you're a family of 4 or 5 or 6 and you're constantly at night doing 2 Xboxes, 4 PCs, 6 cell phones, Netflix, an iPad, and you got like 14 devices going, and you're using the 400 gigabyte plan from your provider, that is why you're actually having issues with your internet. Now, issues with your internet could also be the modem or the router, because a lot of modems and routers, if they're not strong enough, won't actually support your plan. Meaning, to be clear, if you have a 400 gigabyte plan from your internet provider, but your actual modem router doesn't go up to 400 or it doesn't go up to a gigabit, you're actually going to notice this heavily. The biggest reason why, guys, is because Wi-Fi is really just a room. It's just room for devices. So in reality, if your bandwidth is not holding up to how many devices you're going to have, everything's going to be slow. The biggest thing you're going to notice with slowness, guys, is going to be that it's not going to load pages quickly. You might get a lot of disconnections, excuse me, which basically means that your iPad, your Xbox kind of just says you're offline, or it says there's an error, or it's constantly kind of booting you off the Wi-Fi. This could also be a modem router issue, so I would go to the manufacturer or anything like that. But then the number 3, guys, is a combination of both. So number 3 for today is going to be why your internet's bad is because your modem router is not very good. Basically, it's not compatible with the plan that you have from your wireless provider. And then also the fact is that you might have a plan from your wireless provider that is not strong enough for your actual needs. The best way to really trial and error with this is actually to get the lower end plan from your internet provider, and then if you have issues, upgrade. The reason why I do this, and I recommend everyone does this, is because if you go immediately to the gigabit, and let's just say you have a family of like 3 in an apartment, but you're not all heavy users, or you don't have a lot of things going on and you're brand new to Wi-Fi, the problem with this is that you'll never notice if you can actually save that money, because some people who only have 1 Xbox, 2 iPads, a PC, 2 phones, you don't really need a gig. All you really need is the 600 plan, because usually there's 4 or 5 plans, or you can plug one of them into Ethernet and then you're all set. So at the end of the day, guys, the biggest thing is what you're going to want to look at is your Wi-Fi on the 5 or the 2.4 gigahertz network. 2.4 gigahertz network is specifically for devices that are small. 5 gigahertz is going to be for the bigger devices. And remember, small means data consumption and big is data consumption. So small is going to be iPads or a hybrid. Small is going to be phones and things like that, and then or Kindle or a Ring doorbell, and then you get the picture. And big is going to be like an Xbox or like a PS4 or like a gaming PC. I would recommend plugging a gaming PC into Ethernet, and the reason for this is because you're going to be looking to get the best experience possible, and Ethernet is kind of its own realm of Wi-Fi, meaning it doesn't necessarily slow you down that much, although it does slow you down, but it's a more direct and reliable connection. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Wi-Fi has been around for ages, but I feel like this is a pretty frequently asked question for people, just because I worked for a cable company for a long time, and for me personally, I kind of got the whole, you know, super intense degree on Wi-Fi, and I also troubleshooted and fixed it. So for me, I know exactly how to help with Wi-Fi and what the most common problems are, and I've also experienced them as well. Some of the top brands I would also recommend while we end this video, guys, is going to be Linksys, Netgear, and then I would just say Linksys and Netgear. The biggest thing you get with going with a lower end brand is not necessarily that it's going to be bad reliability, is that it also might not have the specs that you're looking for to have your actual plan. So remember that when you're buying these, is that it's not always super obvious on the box, but some modems and routers are actually not meant for a gigabit speed, or they're not meant for fiber, or they don't have the capability. You're also going to want to make sure on there that you actually, if you want to buy a modem router combo, it is going to be the best bet for you, because then you're not going to actually have to replace anything. The only issue is, on the contrary, if you do buy a modem router combo versus just a modem and a router, if it breaks down, you can't just replace one of them. So anyways, guys, this was my take on the Wi-Fi, which network should you pick and which plan should you pick. I'll see you guys next time.